This morning I'm challenging myself to photograph an area without checking a single image until I get back home on the computer. I want to see if this makes me feel different about the images, whether it boosts my confidence or just makes the act of photography more enjoyable. It's been quite some years since I've actually photographed this place. It's probably the most well-known sort of old mine workings in this area. Loads of people come here, even just to walk along through the valley and stuff. But I first photographed it probably is about 8 or 10 years ago now, and I didn't really have any clue about the mining history in this area, or even particularly like what this site was or anything. I just drove past it, saw it, wandered down, photographed it, and over the years I've shot it a few more times. But it has been a few years since I've been here, so quite happy to be back here today. Bit of a path here that leads up, obviously the building, and then you've got the, I don't know the name for that, the metal structure on the left hand side, but that actually has some gates at the bottom of it securing it off because people were like climbing it years ago and stuff like that. And they obviously don't look great in photographs, metal gates around a structure like that. So coming down this incline a little bit, we actually kind of hide them gates behind the hill as it goes up. I don't pride myself in, well, much, to be honest, if I'm being real, but one thing I do think I'm quite good at when it comes to photography is staying present and connected to a scene or subject while I'm photographing it, rather than working my way around it and continuously checking every single image that I check as I go around it. I straight up have the auto review setting turned off on my camera, all of my cameras anyway. I think most people do. Because with digital, and obviously this is a pro of digital, but because of digital, you can just press one button on your camera and see all of your images and get all of that gratification instantly. Something I do often is maybe photograph the place like without reviewing it, and then come away, maybe stand a bit further away and have a bit of a flick through. Sometimes I'll go back to my car at the end of checking out an area and look through the photos in my car. Sometimes if I'm walking, say along here to a new subject, I'll have a little quick scroll through as I'm walking along. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing at all. I'm not here to tell anybody watching to stop checking your images. Pros don't check their images. I'm not here to tell you that. There's loads and loads of photographic scenarios when you're out there where actually reviewing them is a massive bonus and actually really helps. But I do find sometimes that especially if I took, let's say, 10 photos here and worked my way around the subject and shot it, and then I stood by the subject and checked through the images, sometimes it takes the gratification away and the excitement away because I'm like having a good look at them there and then. And also, on the flip side of that, it does have a tendency sometimes to make me feel a little bit crap about the location or subject at that time. Something I actually love about photography that happens a lot when I'm out for a full day, or definitely when I go away for like a weekend or a week or what have you, and I'm staying in, say, an Airbnb or some kind of accommodation, is I'll normally go out for the full day shoot, and you know, I might have a little look here and there, but mostly I'm so engrossed in the process of doing photography and enjoying myself and exploring places, just having a good time, that I kind of just forget about checking the images at all. And then when I get back to the accommodation, Airbnb or what have you, in the evening, I'm like, oh yeah, let me go through my images. And I really love that process of sitting down at the end of the day and looking through them, and you almost kind of forget the ones that you took at the start of the day, and you're like looking through them and you're like, oh yeah, that shot, and it just makes you feel really good, in contrast to then checking them on location and feeling like it's not going to plan. So I actually do a lot of framing sort of adjustments and monitoring the scene via the LCD normally. Shoot maybe 50-50 viewfinder LCD. Different situations require one or the other depending on how I'm feeling. But today I've actually turned everything off on my camera apart from the the actual settings view. Let's come here so I can make sure you can get it. There we go. Just as another buffer. So normally when I press this display button, it will cycle through the LCD and the images and such, but turned it all off. Just as another thing to put in there to try and block me from checking the images. I'm almost like 99% certain last time I was here that metal tube in the floor there redirecting the water wasn't there. But like I say, it has been a long time since I've been here, so it doesn't surprise me that there's been changes if there is. But yeah, I think it makes quite a nice addition actually to the frame. Two buildings there and the metal structure catching a little bit of side light, but I might just kick around for a bit and see if we have a nice bit of directional light that pops through, but I'll take one now. One situation where I would be instantly reviewing my photos quite regularly is if I was shooting anything with motion, like say running water, waterfall, the ocean coming in, lapping over some rocks or something like that, because in that instance you can't actually see how the motion of the water is going to appear until your exposure finishes and you check the shot, because you can't actually see that effect in real time in camera until the long exposure has taken effect. So that is a scenario where I would be checking them regularly, but in those situations I'm normally locked down on a tripod and posted up a lot more, and I've got one composition set up rather than working around the scene. So like I say, I've said this previously in the video, by no means am I saying stop checking your images or that it's going to drastically make you a better photographer or anything like that, but I do think there's a farmer coming here with loads of sheep, so I'm going to have to stop recording in a minute. Anyway, what on earth was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying I don't necessarily say not checking your images is going to instantly make you a better photographer or anything like that. This is just me being curious today. But I do think stopping over and over and over and over again, especially in between shots, interrupts your connection with a scene and a subject. It puts a barrier between me and the subject, for me at least. So let's say we're talking about these houses. Let's say I take a shot, I put the camera down, I take a shot, I put the camera down, check my settings, take a shot, put the camera down. I'm losing my connection with the subject and my thoughts that are going through my mind about the composition. So I believe last time I was here, it was super foggy, and I took this very frame here with this section of fence there that's all fallen down all the way along, and then it just comes back up at the end there. Absolutely love that. It just gives you a real sense of the demise, the downfall of the fence, metaphorically. So I've always wanted to get a detail shot of sorts of this thing, and I've never managed to do it. So hopefully today is the day. That's what I'm going to focus on for the next little while. It's one of them where there is zero way of getting it straight. The lines just change no matter where your camera is. So my other idea was to go back sort of where I started this morning, where those tips were, and maybe try and get it in the background with the tips to give more context of the environment that it actually sits in, because that's a great detail shot, but it'd be nice to tell a bit more of a story, I guess. It's such a shame about the metal railings, because if it wasn't for them it would have opened up so many more photos, but you know, I can understand why they need to be there. So let's have a wander down there. Okay, this is where I was this morning earlier on. Okay, what about this? Got a bit more in it now. Maybe. God, looking that way is just so beautiful. I wish that light was over here. Do one low in the frame. this isn't anywhere near as steep as it actually looks on the camera. Let's go a really shallow depth of field at f2.8. Try and get one where it's a bit more over to the left. Like that. Okay. And then, whoa, the only other option really would be as I head back to the car and we go up the side of the bank, maybe I come more in line with it so I can shoot the top of it way more minimally. But yeah, decent to have a little play. Always let yourself play. Terrible angle to be shooting from, but okay, so now for the part that's either going to absolutely derail this video because every single photo sucked, or I'm going to learn a little bit of something from this little test. I'm going to get home, look at the photos finally on my computer and see how I feel. I'll talk through them, any of them that I feel has anything worthy to say. But what I will say from doing that this morning, what time is it? I haven't got my watch on. It is probably about 2.5 hours. I was walking around there just looking at stuff and taking images. I don't think I took that many images, but in the time that I was down there, I feel like the process was a lot more of almost like a meditation. I don't know if that's the right word, because I'm not looking at the images to see if they're good or not. I'm just shooting them because they're at that time, and what I'm thinking in my head, I'm telling myself that it's worthy of pressing the shutter button. So hopefully that's right. Otherwise, when I go back and if they're rubbish, that means all of my thoughts were terrible. Okay, so I just got finished editing those images this evening, and do I think, looking back on them now, that it made me a better photographer on that particular morning because I wasn't checking the images while out in the field? No, I don't. I took some terrible images and I took some images I really quite like, and that's a pretty bog standard morning of photography if you ask me. I will say though, and I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, I like it when a camera or the camera I'm using stays out of my way and it doesn't feel like it's playing too much of a role in the photographic process, which might sound weird because obviously it's the tool we use in order to take photos. But I mean in the sense that the camera doesn't break my connection with an area. And I do feel that on that particular morning, because I knew I wouldn't be checking the images, well in fact I didn't actually check the images until the next day, but because I knew that that kind of process of wandering around with my thoughts, staying connected to the environment was definitely enhanced, because there was no stopping at any point to look down at the camera. I was only really utilizing and using the camera as a tool when I needed to take a photograph. So as pointless as this challenge might have seemed when I set off to do it on that morning, I do think that this might be something really good to do for people that maybe struggle to slow down and see photos before they start using the tool, i.e. the camera, because it does force you to be a bit more conscious, wait a bit longer, maybe frame things up a little bit more precisely before you press that shutter button. And it's not to say that you don't and shouldn't do all of this if you are reviewing your images, but I always think restrictions or challenges like this do really help us at least learn a tiny fragment more about our process and what works for us the most. I have a funny feeling, knowing the type of person that I am, that if I had reviewed the images that I took at the very start of the day, I think that may have set me off on the wrong foot and put me in a little bit of a negative space, a little bit of a foul mood, because I wasn't happy with those images. So if I'd have reviewed them in the field, I might have started questioning in my head, shall I just go somewhere else? This isn't going to work today. Why have I driven here? I've wasted my time. And that is something that I struggle with when I do photography. I do tend to get quite in my own head about it. So not checking them definitely helped, because I then persevered throughout the rest of that day and actually ended up coming away with some images I absolutely loved towards the end of the day when the conditions were even worse. Anyway, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you were able to pull a little bit of a nugget of information or inspiration from it. And thank you so much for watching. For the regular viewers that always stick right until the end, I don't know how many people actually stay until the outro, but for those of you that do, my videos may be a little bit more sparse over the coming months because I'm always 100 times busier at this time of year, but I'll try and keep up to it as much as I can. Obviously, this is not my full-time job. So yeah, if I go for a week or two without posting a video, that is why. But having said that, I'll see you in the next one.